I'm telling you, he's not going to make it. Marcus's voice cut through the steady beeping of machines. The doctors said so themselves. We need to think about the policy. I screamed inside my own head, but my lips didn't move, my eyes didn't open. I was locked in my body, paralyzed, yet I heard every word as if the ICU walls had turned to glass. My mother was dividing up my belongings. My sister was whispering into the phone with my insurance company. And someone, one of them, had poisoned me. My name is Ethan Caldwell, and this is how my family tried to kill me for money. Marcus was the first voice I recognized, slick as ever, trying to sound reasonable. He'd always been the golden child, 3 years older, the one who wore $1,000 suits he couldn't pay for and drove leased cars to look successful. His smile was practiced, the kind real estate agents wear when they're calculating how much they can squeeze out of you. If you weren't useful, you didn't exist in his world. Mom, Evelyn Caldwell, spoke next. She'd worked 30 years as a bank teller, counted cash like it was oxygen, and guarded pennies like gold. Retirement hadn't slowed her down. She traded tellers' windows for online poker sites she thought nobody knew about. But I'd seen the browser history. Thousands gone in digital smoke. She preached about family and God on Sundays, then checked her phone under the table to see if the cards had been kind. And Claire, my sister, 2 years younger, an artist who never sold a single piece. She lived in a cluttered apartment filled with canvases and credit card bills stacked higher than her easel. She laughed whenever money came up, an anxious, hollow laugh, borrowed from everyone, always promising her next painting would be the one. It never was. The only voice missing from that room was my father's. Richard Caldwell had been a plumber his whole life, a man who fixed things without overcharging, who kept his head down and his hands steady. He rarely spoke at family dinners, but when he did, it mattered. I should have paid attention to his silence, because silent men see everything. The irony was cruel. I had built a life as ordinary as a sunrise. My auto shop, Caldwell Auto, sat on Maple Street, sandwiched between a bakery and a hardware store. My grandfather had opened it back in the 60s, and I kept it running the same way he had. Honest work, fair prices, no cutting corners. People in town trusted me. I wasn't rich, but I had enough. Enough for rent, enough to save a little, enough for Sunday pancakes with Lily, my 8-year-old daughter who carried her mother's green eyes and my stubborn streak. Lauren, my ex-wife, worked as a nurse at County General. We'd split 2 years earlier, not because of betrayal, but because we'd grown apart. 2 trees planted too close together, each starved for light. She'd kept the house, I'd kept the apartment above the shop, and together we kept Lily's world whole. Our divorce had ended with a handshake, not a war. Then one morning in October, my life ended, or so they thought. I remember pouring coffee into the mug Lily had painted for me in art class. World's best dad, in crooked, messy letters. The first sip was bitter, but shop coffee always was. By the third, my chest clenched and the world tilted. My left arm went numb. Textbook signs. A heart attack, I thought, but I was 35, ran 3 miles a week, didn't smoke, barely drank. My grandfather had died in this same shop, but he'd been 78. This wasn't supposed to be me. I hit the floor, phone in hand, somehow managing to dial 911 before darkness swallowed me whole. 3 days later, I woke to the nightmare of being awake but trapped in my own skin. I couldn't blink, couldn't move, but I heard everything. The doctors say it's touch and go, Marcus said in his smooth, businesslike tone. We have to think practically. Ethan has a $500,000 policy. Hazel. Lily, my sister corrected. Lily will be provided for. Lauren's a nurse. She doesn't need the money. But the shop. Dad can't run it. Someone has to think about the family's future. The boy's not dead yet. My father's gravelly voice finally spoke from somewhere in the shadows. He might as well be, Marcus replied coldly. We should be prepared. It's the responsible thing to do. And that's when I understood the full horror. 6 months earlier, they'd pushed me into taking life insurance. $500,000. With Lily as the beneficiary, my parents as trustees. Marcus had a friend who handled the policy. He'd smiled while saying, "This is easy money." I hadn't realized how literal that was. They weren't waiting for me to die. They were making sure of it. And I lay there, helpless, listening, promising myself that if I ever opened my eyes again, they'd regret underestimating me. My father's voice cut through the room, rare and sharp. Richard, you heard what the doctor said. Massive heart damage. Even if he wakes up, he'll never work again. He'll be an invalid. The shop will have to be sold anyway. The insurance money could set us all up properly. I mean, set Lily up properly. College fund, trust fund, whatever's best. I wanted to scream. My daughter's college had been covered since the day she was born. $50 here, $100 there. Not a fortune, but enough. They knew this. We talked about it last Christmas while Claire complained about her student loans. Then Marcus leaned close to someone, footsteps shifting near the bed. His voice dropped to what he thought was a whisper, but in the quiet ICU room, every syllable sliced through me like a scalpel. He's going to die anyway, isn't he? The EEG shows minimal activity. This is just prolonging the inevitable. Why put the family through this? Why put Lily through this? Dr. Rothschild's voice was stiff, professional, and laced with disgust. Mr. Caldwell is stable. His brain activity, while reduced, is present. We don't discontinue care based on family speculation about outcomes. But the insurance company needs to know his condition, Marcus pressed. They'll need documentation, timelines, prognosis reports. The insurance company will receive appropriate documentation if and when it becomes necessary. Now I have other patients to attend to. The doctor's footsteps faded, but my family stayed. For the next 2 days, I lay there, trapped inside myself, listening to them plan my death like a business merger. Claire Googled my insurance policy details on her phone, reading clauses aloud. It says here that in case of permanent disability, the payout is only 60%. But if he dies, Marcus calculated quickly, it's the full amount. That's a $200,000 difference. That changes everything. Mom, Evelyn, started making lists, her pen scratching against paper. His tools in the shop are worth at least $30,000. The diagnostic equipment, another $20,000. The property itself, what do you think, Marcus? Commercial property on Maple Street with the gentrification happening? We're looking at maybe $400,000, maybe more if we hold out for the right buyer. Do you think Lily really needs his tools? Mom asked. She's 8. They're worth good money. We could sell them and put the money in her trust. Or pay off some debts first, Claire murmured. I mean, to ensure we can properly care for her without financial stress. My father's voice came rarely, but when it did, it was firm. You're all vultures. The boy is right there. Dad, we're being practical, Marcus shot back. Someone has to be. You've always been too soft. Sometimes I felt my father's calloused hand on mine, rough from years of pipes and wrenches. He'd squeeze gently and whisper, fight, son. Don't listen to them. Just fight. Lauren came twice a day with Lily. She'd hold my other hand, the one without the 4, and talk about normal things. Mrs. Henderson keeps calling about her Buick. She says you're the only one who knows how to fix it. The transmission's been acting up for months, and she trusted you to fix it. Lily's small voice broke through everything else. Daddy, I got an A on my science test, the one about the heart. I knew all the parts because you showed me on the engine how things pump and flow. The teacher said I was very smart, just like my dad. Please wake up. I want to tell you about it properly. But my family kept planning, calculating, dividing up my life while my heart struggled to keep beating. On the 5th day, I fought through what felt like thick molasses and finally opened my eyes. The fluorescent lights stabbed into my brain like needles, but I forced myself to focus. The room erupted in chaos. Marcus actually stepped backward, his face shifting from shock to something that looked distinctly like disappointment. Claire dropped her phone, the screen shattering on the hospital floor. Mom clutched her chest dramatically as if she was the one having the medical emergency. Ethan. Lauren rushed to my bedside, grabbing my hand. Lily was right behind her, her small face lighting up like Christmas morning. Daddy. She climbed onto the bed despite the nurse's protests, wrapping her thin arms around me carefully, as if she knew exactly where it hurt. My throat felt like sandpaper, but I forced the words out, each one deliberate and clear. I heard everything. The room went silent. Marcus's face drained of color, his salesman's smile freezing into something grotesque. Mom suddenly became very interested in the floor tiles, her hands twisting the purse strap she always carried. Claire started to speak, stopped, then started again, producing nothing but small strangled sounds. Every single word. You were in a coma, Marcus said quickly, his voice climbing an octave. The doctors said you wouldn't be aware of anything. The doctors were wrong. I looked at each of them in turn, my gaze settling longest on my mother. 500,000? That's what I'm worth to you? Actually, no. 500,000 plus the shop, plus the tools, plus whatever else you could carve up and sell. Dad stood from his chair in the corner, the first time I'd seen him stand up to Mom in years. I told you he could hear us. I told you to shut your mouths. Richard, we were just discussing practical matters. Mom started, but Dad cut her off. You were dividing up his things while he was fighting for his life. I've been married to you for 40 years, Evelyn, and I've never been more disgusted. Recovery was slow and brutal. 6 weeks of physical therapy, learning to walk again, building strength and muscles that had forgotten their purpose. The shop stayed closed. Mrs. Henderson's Buick sat waiting under a tarp. But something gnawed at me beyond my family's greed. This shouldn't have happened. I was too young, too healthy, too careful with my body for a massive heart attack. Your arteries were clear, Dr. Rothschild said during a follow-up appointment, showing me the cardiac catheterization results. Your cholesterol levels are perfect. No family history of early cardiac events. No smoking, minimal drinking, regular exercise. Ethan, men like you don't have heart attacks at 35. So what happened? Sometimes we don't get answers. The human body can be unpredictable. Doc, I'm a mechanic. When something breaks that shouldn't, there's always a reason. A contaminated fluid, a faulty part, something. Bodies are just biological machines, right? He studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. What are you suggesting? Run more tests, blood work, toxicology, everything. Please. Something about this feels wrong, and it's not just my family circling like vultures. He agreed, ordering comprehensive blood work and expanded toxicology panels. We'll check everything, but don't get your hopes up for answers. Sometimes these things just happen, even when they shouldn't. Meanwhile, I watched my family with new eyes. Marcus had been struggling with his real estate business more than he let on. I had a friend run a credit check. He was 3 months behind on his BMW lease, 6 months behind on his condo. The successful businessman image was smoke and mirrors. Claire's situation was worse. $30,000 in credit card debt, her studio apartment in pre-eviction proceedings. She'd been selling her paintings, all right, but for $50 on street corners, not thousands in galleries. The artist's life she portrayed was fiction. Mom's gambling problem had escalated. Dad showed me bank statements he'd found hidden in her jewelry box. $20,000 drained from their retirement account. Online poker, sports betting, even virtual slot machines. She'd been chasing losses for 2 years. Then there was the morning I collapsed. Someone had been in my shop. The security camera had mysteriously stopped working. The night before, the cable had been cut clean through with wire cutters. My coffee mug, the one I drank from just before the heart attack, had been washed and put away by the time the crime scene photos were taken. I never washed dishes at the shop. That mug should have been sitting dirty on my workbench. Who has keys to the shop? Detective Hawthorne asked when I finally convinced someone to investigate. Just family, I admitted. Marcus, my parents, and I'd given Claire one in case of emergencies. The detective made notes, her face carefully neutral. And they all knew your routine, when you'd be there alone. Everyone knew. I opened at 6 every morning. Had for years. The pieces were forming a picture I didn't want to see, but couldn't ignore. Someone in my family had tried to kill me for money. The question was who, and whether they'd try again. 2 months after my heart attack, Dr. Rothschild called. His voice was different this time, urgent and controlled, like he was holding back something explosive. Ethan, we need to talk. Can you come to my office today? Not tomorrow. Today. I sat across from him an hour later as he spread lab results across his desk, his fingers pointing to specific values highlighted in yellow. Your blood work shows traces of ethylene glycol. That's antifreeze, Ethan. But more concerning, we found traces of digoxin, a cardiac glycoside that hasn't been prescribed in the United States for over a decade. It causes heart attacks by disrupting the electrical signals in your heart. My world tilted sideways. Everything suddenly made terrible sense. Someone poisoned me. The levels suggest a deliberate dose, carefully measured. Too much would have been immediately obvious. Too little wouldn't have worked. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. Someone with knowledge of chemicals and access to my daily routine, I said. I've already contacted the police, Rothschild said. Detective Rita Hawthorne took over the case with the intensity of someone who'd seen too much family violence. She was small, sharp-eyed, and missed nothing. We reviewed everything. Who had access to the shop, who knew my routines, who would benefit from my death. The suspect list was heartbreakingly short. It had to be family. The investigation revealed things that made my stomach turn. Marcus had been at the shop the night before my heart attack, supposedly checking on inventory for insurance purposes, but the inventory had been updated just a week prior. There was no reason for him to be there. The security camera cable had been cut with tools from inside the shop, not outside, meaning whoever did it had a key. Claire's credit card had been used at a garden center that sold antifreeze the week before my heart attack. When questioned, she claimed it was for her car, but her ancient Honda had been in the shop for months. The picture was coming together. I just didn't know which of them had held the cup that morning, or if they all had a hand in it. But one thing was certain, I wasn't done fighting. Not for my shop. Not for my daughter. Not for my life. She hadn't driven her car since spring. That excuse didn't hold up when detectives found the empty jug of antifreeze in her trunk. But it was my mother's computer history that burned the brightest hole in the case. Evelyn Caldwell had searched for digoxin, page after page, clicking through medical sites about heart medications, overdoses, and fatal dosages. She thought she'd scrubbed her history clean. She hadn't. The forensic tech pulled every damning detail from her cache files. Even her late-night searches. How soon before a heart attack death certificate is issued and life insurance payout timeline after sudden cardiac death. Detective Hawthorne sat across from me, his jaw tight, his folder thick with evidence. It could be any of them, Ethan, he said, or all of them working together. But until we've got more, I can't put cuffs on anyone. That's when I made my decision. If the law needed proof, I'd hand it to them on a silver platter. The following Sunday, I invited everyone over. The same family who had sat by my hospital bed whispering about insurance policies and moving forward. The same voices I'd heard while trapped in my own body, paralyzed but fully aware. We gathered around the oak table. My father, Richard, sat quietly at the far end, hands folded like a man who had seen too much. Lauren and Lily had stayed away. I didn't want them anywhere near what I was about to set in motion. I cleared my throat. I've been doing a lot of thinking since everything, I said, letting my words hang long enough to make them lean closer. About family. About what really matters. About priorities. Marcus actually set his phone down. Claire's wine glass trembled just slightly in her hand. Mom's eyes narrowed the way they did when she knew she was about to hear something she didn't like. I'm changing my life insurance beneficiary, I said. From now on, everything goes to medical research. Specifically, the American Heart Association. They saved my life, and I want to give back. The silence was thunderous. Then came the cracks. Marcus dropped his fork, gravy splattering across the tablecloth. Claire's face drained of all color, her hand shaking so violently she had to set her glass down or risk dropping it. My mother's mouth opened, closed, opened again like she was drowning on dry land. When? Marcus asked, his voice cracking on that single word. Tomorrow. Appointment set for 8 a.m. sharp. That's hasty, Mom said carefully, voice wrapped in fake calm. What about Lily? She'll get a trust from my savings, I answered evenly. She doesn't need blood money. The words landed like a hammer. My father's eyes locked with mine. He gave me the smallest of nods, subtle, but it felt like the first time in years we truly stood on the same side. That night, my new security system, the one I'd quietly installed, proved its worth. Every corner of my shop was under surveillance now. At 2 a.m., Marcus slipped through the side door like he'd done it 100 times. In his hand was a small glass vial. He went straight to the office, to the same coffee maker I used every morning. He poured the contents into the grounds, stirred carefully, and reset the machine. Professional. Practiced. Too practiced. The police were waiting when he tried to walk out. At the station, faced with video evidence, Marcus broke faster than I'd imagined. But what he confessed stunned everyone. It wasn't just me, he yelled, voice hoarse, spit flying. This was Mom's idea from the start. She found the drug. She knew what would work. Claire bought the antifreeze, pretending it was for her damn car. We were supposed to split it 3 ways. For Lily's future, we said. But really? You just wanted your gambling debts gone, didn't you, Mom? His eyes burned into hers. 40 grand to a bookie. That's what your son's life was worth. Mom's face collapsed, every line of her composure dissolving into shame. Claire began sobbing, ugly and raw. It was just talk, she cried. We were drowning, Ethan. You had everything together, and we had nothing. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Detective Hawthorne leaned forward, voice low but sharp. Talk doesn't put poison in coffee. He signaled for more officers. Evelyn and Claire were taken in that night. Marcus was sentenced to 15 years. The judge called it one of the most cold-blooded betrayals of kinship he'd ever seen. Mom and Claire got lesser sentences: conspiracy, suspended time, probation, ankle monitors, and mandatory counseling. Justice, yes, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a funeral for the family I thought I had. The day after the trial, Dad showed up at my apartment above the shop. 2 suitcases, 1 toolbox. Nothing else. I should have left her years ago, he said as he set his bags down. I saw the greed, how it grew like rust, spreading until it ate everything. But I stayed quiet. I wanted peace. I was a coward. Never again, son. For the first time, we talked, really talked. Days fixing cars together, nights drinking beer and trading stories. He told me about my grandfather, a man I'd never truly known. Your grandfather used to say real family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when your engine won't start, and it's 20 below. He was right. Lauren and I never remarried, but we grew closer than we'd been in years. She'd saved my life when she pushed the doctors to dig deeper, refusing to accept an easy answer. Healthy men your age don't just drop from heart attacks, she'd said. Something was wrong. She'd been right. We found a new rhythm. Sunday dinners at my place. Dad's chili, Lauren's pies, Lily setting the table with the seriousness of a general preparing for war. There was laughter at those dinners. No insurance talk. No money talk. Just warmth. But the real hero of my story was Lily. Only 8 years old, yet she saw the world more clearly than any of us. After the arrests, I sat in the shop, staring at the concrete, wondering how my own mother could have wanted me dead. Lily climbed into my lap. Daddy, she said, Uncle Marcus and Aunt Claire and Grandma made a bad choice because they forgot something important. What's that, sweetheart? That people are worth more than paper with numbers on it. You taught me that. Remember when you fixed Mrs. Chen's car for free because her husband was sick? You said helping people is more important than money. Her little voice cut through the wreckage of my thoughts like sunlight through a storm. I changed my policy after that. Lily stayed the beneficiary, but with Lauren and Dad as trustees. And I added a clause. If I died under suspicious circumstances, every cent would go to charity until investigators cleared my family. My lawyer called it the anti-murder clause. We laughed, but the truth wasn't funny at all. The shop thrived after reopening. Word spread. People brought their cars not just because I was good at fixing engines, but because I'd survived the kind of betrayal you wouldn't wish on an enemy, and chose to keep going anyway. Business doubled within 6 months. Some nights I still wake at 3 a.m., feeling that phantom weight on my chest. Not from poison this time, but from memory, being trapped in that hospital bed, hearing voices of the people I loved most planning for my death, like it was a business transaction. That night didn't kill me, but it killed my belief that blood automatically means loyalty. What it gave me instead was clarity. Marcus, Mom, and Claire showed me that some people will value money above everything else, even blood. But Dad, Lauren, and Lily showed me that love doesn't come with a price tag. It shows up when the engine won't start. It stays when everyone else leaves. Every morning, when I drop Lily at school and she runs back to shout, "Love you, Dad." That's my real inheritance. That's worth more than every policy, every dollar, every lie they tried to sell me for. The doctors called it a miracle that I survived. I call it something better. A second chance to finally see the difference between relatives and family. And sometimes, it takes almost dying before you really learn how to live.